Cool. So this is part 4. We've been looking at prophecies, ancient prophecies that speak of a Messiah who will come, save Israel from her enemies and will save the whole world. We've looked at 3 already. We've looked at the Jewish interpretation of those prophecies and also how one man, Jesus of Nazareth, has fulfilled those prophecies. So we want to look at the 4th prophecy that we've prepared.
Yeah, so this is a very, very powerful prophecy because this was given through Nathan the prophet. He came to David and shared what is commonly called today the Davidic Covenant. It's an agreement that God has made with David and the household of David.
David being the beloved King David.
Yes, about his future progeny and the descendants that will come from him, and the fact that David's house will be protected forever until the Messiah comes. And where some people get confused is that there are 2 prophecies being given by Nathan, and you'll find the 1st and 2nd Samuel, and the second one you'll find in 1 Chronicles 17. Now the prophecy given in 2 Samuel is about Solomon. The one in 1 Chronicles 17 is about the Messiah. But when you read them side by side, they sound incredibly similar, but there are slight differences in the text.
Right.
So in the 2 Samuel version, for instance, we're told that David's son will sin and God will chastise him for his sin and correct him and bring him back. In the 1 Chronicles passage, there's no mention of sin. In 2 Samuel, we're told that the throne of Solomon will be eternal. In 1 Chronicles 17, we're told that the person who sits upon the throne will be eternal. So there are very clear distinctions between these 2 prophecies given by Nathan. The 1st and 2 Samuel is about Solomon. The 2nd in 1 Chronicles 17 is about the coming of the Messiah.
So that's the one
once
we're going to
David
look
has
at.
died. So we're going to be looking at 1 Chronicles 17. Would you like to read?
But thanks for clarifying that. That's
Cool.
really helpful because I think it's important to deal with any questions or doubt that would come up, because we know that Jesus of Nazareth was sinless. So if people are confusing these 2 prophecies and they're like, well, hold on a second, it said that he will sin, that could kind of blow everything out of the water. So 100%. I appreciate you clarifying that. Thank you. All right, 1 Chronicles 17 says, I declare to you that the Lord will build a house for you. When your days are over and you go to be with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, one of your own sons, and I will establish his kingdom. He is the one who will build a house for me, and I will establish his throne forever. I will be his father, and he will be my son. I will never take my love away from him, as I took it away from your predecessor. I will set him over my house and my kingdom forever. His throne will be established forever. Nathan reported to David all the words of this entire revelation or prophecy.
Yeah, there we go. And so from this short prophecy, we can deduce several very, very key important points. Number 1, Messiah is going to be David's son. Now, it's not a literal son, but this means somebody that comes from the loins of David in future generations. We're told as well, it says, when your days are over, David, and you go to be with your ancestors, then I will raise up your offspring to succeed you. So this is once David's died. So it's not going to be within David's lifetime, but after David has died, one of his descendants is going to be raised up.
So this is helping us pinpoint the time in history we can expect this Messiah as
so
well.
It's future of David.
Yeah.
And so the Messiah is going to appear after David's death. Thirdly, not only is the Messiah going to be David's son, we're told here he's going to be God's son, because God says, I will be a father to him and he will be a son to me.
So this is kind of like the first sort of mention and edging into the divine, that this isn't just a human descendant, but there's a divinity here as well.
Yeah, and also looking back to the Numbers prophecy about the star rising, once again, a star in the ancient world was a representation of a people's God. So there's a hint there that the Messiah would be God in the flesh. Here we're being told that this unique person will be God's son. And more than that, it says that the Messiah will be set over God's house and his kingdom forever. As we've just mentioned in Solomon's passage in 2 Samuel, it says the throne will be established forever. Here we're told that God will set him over my house and my kingdom forever. So it's the person who's going to reign forever. It's not just a forever throne or house, it's a forever person. It's an eternal person.
Well, I don't know of any person, human, that's sort of outlived. I mean, we had several 100-year-old people at the beginning of time, but now we make it maybe to 100. So, if you take this at face value, it's clearly not just talking about a human king reigning forever.
Absolutely, but he has to be human because he's a descendant of David. And so this is where you've got the tension. You've got this human that's born from David's line, yet he's going to reign forever. And the only feasible way within Judaism that somebody can reign forever and be a physical descendant of David is if they live in a resurrection or glorified body.
Who does that sound like?
Who does that sound like? And so you need a resurrected descendant of David to rule and reign as king over Israel forever.
And sorry, you go. No.
And just to say as well, let's think back to the genealogical scrolls again of the lineage of David. I mean, to be appointed as king over Israel, you have to be able to prove your genealogical descent from King David apart from the line of King Jeconiah. King Jeconiah was cursed of God and said that none of his descendants would sit upon the throne. So you have to be a descendant of King David, bypassing the line of King Jeconiah, and to be born before the genealogical scrolls were destroyed in 70 AD. So once again, you're pinpointing the line down very, very narrowly to a time frame in which the Messiah has to appear and whose line he appears from. And he has to be resurrected within this time too.
Well, and what I was just going to throw out there is in terms of, all the different persuasions of religions who talk about God, I can only think of Jesus of Nazareth as God making the claim that I've been resurrected. Like there are prophets and gods that existed, but that when they were dead, that's it. And people are following their teachings, but they never claimed to be resurrected or to live forever. And Jesus of Nazareth is the only man, God, who lived that and claimed it. And, we can talk about this in further episodes. There's pretty substantial evidence that his claims were true, evidence for the resurrection, evidence that everything he said would happen, did happen.
Sure. So the person of Jesus of Nazareth is under no doubt that he existed.
Yeah.
The crucifixion of Jesus is another historical fact that is not doubted by any New Testament historian. And finally, the empty tomb, the discovery of the empty tomb by women followers also is not disputed by any New Testament
modern day historian.
Yeah, right? So the person, the death, and the empty tomb of Jesus. And you've had even atheist New Testament scholars like Gerd Ludman says it's indisputable that the disciples had post-mortem appearances of Jesus after his death. And this is an atheist historian saying they saw something. They saw appearances of Jesus. And so the evidence is enormously strong. And again, there is no other Jewish personage who appeared in the first century prior to the destruction in 70 AD, who proclaimed themselves to be the Messiah and had accompanying signs, wonders, and miracles that confirmed it. And so really, Jesus of Nazareth really is your only option for the Jewish Messiah.
Because there's no other deity or prophet also that make those claims of rising from the dead and living eternally. So it's kind of narrowing our pool right down.
And even if you should, they still have to be from Israel. They have to be Jewish. They have to be descended from King David. I mean, all of these criteria have to fit, otherwise it's ruled out. And only Jesus of Nazareth fulfills these criteria.
I mean, I don't know if we can do 300 episodes on this one topic, but like you said, the fact that there are 300 bits of evidence or pieces of information that only one man fulfilled, that's a lot of points. So we've just covered 4 or 5.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some Jewish interpretation. And once again, it's held as common belief within Judaism that Messiah will be the son of David. So there are so many rabbinic writings and teachings on this that we really only have to mention one because it's so commonly held.
Okay.
The King Messiah will arise and reestablish the monarchy of David as it was in former times. He will build the sanctuary and gather in the dispersed of Israel. The first Messiah was David, who saved Israel from her adversaries. The final Messiah will be of his sons and will deliver Israel from the hands of the descendants of Esau. So this is from the Mishnah Torah. So there we clearly see again that distinction between two messiahs. First one was King David, and then finally at the end of time there would be this other Messiah who will come of the sons of David.
But it is worth pointing out that people who believe Jesus fulfilled these as the Messiah, they don't recognize David as a Messiah per se.
No. So David was certainly an anointed one because he was king, and that's all Messiah means, really. It means the anointed one.
Right.
So any king that was anointed would have been messiahed.
But what I mean is it's
the Messiah.
Exactly. So
the son of David.
When we talk about these two Messiahs, it's this interpretation of these two comings. You can't ascribe David as one of the Messiahs coming, because then that takes the place of when Jesus did it. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
And David didn't fulfill the signs of Moses, for instance, and the other requirements of who the true Messiah is. So there will be those rabbis who think that David was Messiah or Hezekiah was Messiah, but when you look at the criteria required for the true Jewish Messiah, these other men do not fulfill those criteria. Only Jesus of Nazareth does.
Brilliant. So does that cover this one for today? Excellent. Stay tuned for more. This has been so good. Thank you, Paul.